Thank you so much for tuning in. This is a little panel discussion about micro weddings. Since they're the hot new thing, we're going to talk about them. We have some of Pittsburgh's best and brightest wedding professionals. So we'll go around real quick, do a little introduction, get into the questions, the things you've been dying to know, things you want to hear, and it'll be great. Real quick, my name is Michael Will. I'm a photographer in Pittsburgh, do weddings, events, all sorts of different things. Been doing this for a while, so I have an opinion on a lot of stuff. It could be right or wrong, but we'll let you be the judge. Over here we have Shane. Shane, if you would do a little introduction for us, please.
Sure. I'm Shane Solaray, a local Pittsburgh wedding planner of Soiree by Solaray.
Then Sapphire and Lace down here.
Hey there, I'm Julie. I'm the older sister and half of Sapphire and Lace.
And I'm Bethany, the other half, the middle sister actually, but it's just us. We do flowers for weddings.
Nice. I have Jimmy down here.
Hi, I'm Jimmy Lord. I'm with Green Center Floral Design. I have a sister. I'm not a sister.
So I have Alexis.
Hi, everybody. I am Alexis Allen. I am lead principal planner with Shayla Hawkins Events, boutique wedding and event planning firm based here out of Pittsburgh, and also the co-owner of Slate Studio, which is located in the Strip District.
Awesome. And then over here, Victoria.
I am Victoria. I'm the owner and the voice of Burke Brides. It's a digital wedding planning platform for anyone getting married in Pittsburgh.
Awesome. Okay. So thank you all so much for joining me today, taking time out of your day. What I want to do, we're going to talk about micro weddings because we're hearing them a lot. COVID obviously has kind of stopped a lot of the big weddings. So now we're going to small weddings. But what is a micro wedding? Like, what is it? What qualifies as a micro wedding?
So I think that there are a few terms that are sort of interchangeable. So we've been hearing micro wedding, we've been hearing nano wedding, we've been hearing mini moni, which is my personal favorite. But I think what can be considered a micro wedding is sort of a very small group. I think in my mind, it's like, 25, 30 guests. And it is more than an elopement, which is typically, maybe just the couple and they might do something very small. The micro wedding might actually include some sort of the celebration that you might expect from a typical wedding. There might be a cocktail reception, there might be a cake cutting, a first dance, those kinds of things. So it's sort of, if you take a full-scale wedding and kind of shrink it down.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else have any other different definitions?
Nailed it.
So this is good because I had a question. How is it different than an elopement? So elopement is basically like, hey, we ran off, we got married at the courthouse, we got some pictures, but we're skipping all the kind of festivities that would normally be associated with a wedding. Is that correct? And so micro wedding is you're still having the wedding, you're still doing the celebration, like maybe you're cutting the cake, you're doing the first dance, but it's kind of miniaturized and maybe only a couple people, smaller venue, et cetera. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I think a big question is how do you get away with a micro wedding? Like, how do you not feel guilty or bad about having the big wedding?
I'll jump in and say it's a buzzword that I'm sure a lot of people in our industry have been using. I know personally I have. It's about grace and understanding that these are unprecedented, uncharted waters. It's unprecedented time. So, from a client perspective, as a planner, I'm telling them to extend grace. If people don't feel comfortable in coming, they're not able to come. And at the same time, it's my hope that guests, family members, and friends also extend that grace and understand that if they're essentially uninvited, it's not because we don't want you there. The short list has now become very short. Like, the short list didn't go from 200 to 185. The short list went from 200 to 25. So, it's really a good understanding of grace and really accepting and unfortunately embracing the current climate. And moving forward and really focusing on the essence of a wedding. We all get wrapped up in it, and it's part of it. It's our job. We want beautiful, and we love all of that. It doesn't mean you can't have that. It just means that your audience and your group is smaller.
I like that. Is there any way, like, how do you, a graceful way to maybe uninvite people? So if you had a big wedding and now, should you let people know now, hey, we're doing something different and you're not invited? I don't know.
So I can speak to that from personal experience. I had a friend who was supposed to get married this summer. They had the whole big wedding planned for June. And then, of course, they had to shrink things down. And then, of course, they had to alter their plans a second time, and they ended up eloping, just the two of them. And, as a guest who was invited to the original wedding, of course, I'm kind of following along on social media and seeing what they're up to. And so I knew that they really had to change their wedding plans, and they decided to elope. And then, I get a cute little announcement in the mail that says, "We eloped, we'll party later." So it was just a really nice way for them to sort of kill two birds with one stone, with A, an elopement announcement, and B, sort of a save the new date for their wedding, that they plan on having next year. So I think, like Alexis was saying, just being graceful in this time is so, so important from all perspectives. I think guests really understand that if you had it your way as a couple, you would not be making any of these changes. But, you're being forced into this new situation. And hopefully they are understanding and compassionate about, the changes that you're being forced to make.
Jump in here too.
Sure.
A lot of couples are having this question. I think people right now are craving personal contact. So I'm encouraging them to reach out, make a phone call if you can, if you're comfortable with it, explain the situation. Obviously, a lot of people are very understanding right now. If you're not comfortable making that phone call, it makes sense to send a personal card, not an email, not a text message, either a handwritten card or a nice card that you can have printed through a local printer or designer. I think that's a nice touch to let people know that you still care about them, that you're still thinking about them, but right now it's just not within the realm of possibility.
And for,
yeah, go ahead, Jimmy.
For me, like a lot of times when I'm talking to clients is like, this is a different experience you're having than what you originally invited them to and everything. So have an element of confidence. You didn't make this deliberate choice. You didn't decide to uninvite Uncle Frank, even though nobody likes him. Great. Now he doesn't have to come. But just like, this is a very different experience of what you're having.
This is good. Man, I like talking to you guys. I think too, this could be a good opportunity if like I hear this a lot. It's like my parents talked me into the big wedding, so I feel like you also have an opportunity now if you just really wanted to go to the beach and get married. But actually, no, we're in Pittsburgh, so don't go to the beach. Go down to the river and get married still in Pittsburgh.
Don't do that either.
Have you been to the river?
The lake, maybe? I don't know. Okay, so what are some ideas, maybe venues, locations, things that you guys have seen or you've thought, hey, this would be really great, opportunities that people could still do something unique, show off their personality. Since you don't have to fit 200 people, it's a small, what is now open and possible for doing the micro wedding?
Is this my opportunity for the shameless plug?
Oh yeah, please. Yeah,
shameless plug. Here we go. Well, everybody. As I mentioned, I am a co-owner of Slate, and Shayla, my business partner, and I obviously did not open it with the thought that this would be our reality. But of course, we went into it because we wanted to host, and we wanted clients to be able to host more intimate events. We wanted it to be a blank slate, hence the name. So you don't have to struggle and compete with really strong design elements that are already in the space. And you can make it really your own. So we went into this project and we went into this business venture with a lot of this already in mind. You could do minimal things. You don't have to get into ridiculous decor, although we welcome it greatly. But if you didn't want to, if budget doesn't allow, or that's just not your thing, you can really go into a turnkey and have a beautiful, elegant, romantic, in very intimate event. So we are still definitely open and functioning. And because of the way that the space is set up, it really leans itself to these micro weddings and smaller, more intimate events.
That's cool.
I think one of the silver linings, if you can look at any positives that are coming out of this whole thing, one of them is that couples are sort of opened up to a whole new world of possibilities. You know, before, if you have 150, 200 people, you're obviously limited as to where you can host a wedding. You need a space that's large enough. But with 20, 30, you know, you could essentially get married almost anywhere. You know, in many cases, your favorite restaurant or backyards, those are becoming huge. You know, so I think it's allowing couples to be a lot more creative, and it's sort of allowing them to, you know, just have a whole new world of possibilities in front of them.
Kind of jump off Victoria's idea too. So I think this is everybody's chance, like she said, to get more creative. I have couples that are thinking of doing picnic baskets, adorable little picnic baskets for each guest to pick up and have a picnic on their lawn in the backyard. So kind of like Jimmy said too, taking them back to having an experience. And this is your opportunity, you know, if you're working with a similar budget to what you had, now you can go all out with personalized details for each guest, personalized notes to each guest. There's so many more creative opportunities that these couples have now when you're only focusing on 25, 30 guests as opposed to 200.
That's good. That's really good. Julie and Bethany, you guys have a little cottage too, don't you?
Yeah, very intimate. We can max out at about 24. So yeah, we've seen, we had a baby shower this past weekend and a bridal shower a couple weekends before that. And we saw them really take advantage of creative elements. They only had, you know, because of what's going on, 12 people at their shower, but it made such a more personalized shower. They were able to, you know, do these nice place settings for each person, whereas before it was just something simple. The way they served their food, the decorations, it just gave them an opportunity to do these Pinterest-worthy things that maybe were overwhelming to them at the beginning or not viable for all of their guests, or even outside of our cottage, you know, 200 people, 20 tables. Now you're scaling it down to 3 to 5 tables. You could really get more bang for your buck. You could let your imagination run wild. So it's fun to kind of almost make up for those sort of feelings where, oh, like these people can't come now, or we have to wear masks or what have you, now to kind of make up for those maybe negative things that they're feeling. Now we kind of try to find ways where we can make this special. How can we make it that much more special for you? I know with like serving alcohol, everybody wants a mimosa at a shower, but it was really fun to look up really cute mocktail recipes and like a punch bowl and things like that. That maybe you wouldn't have been open to, but how can we take what might have been like a normal mimosa to the next level? Everyone has a special glass, and just finding those little details to make everybody feel welcomed and special. It's a fun
and to make the planning process exciting again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's important what you were saying about, you know, there's been so much added stress and anxiety and disappointment, and to be able to find the joy in planning a wedding again has really been, you know, sort of the reinvigoration that a lot of people have needed.
One thing I want to throw out is, like, for me as a creative, this is an exciting time because not everything we do already exists in the world. You know, like, so in our business, like, we're constantly like finding a picture. Here's what it is. We're going to build that. It's going to look like that. Why don't you just order it off of a catalog? And now there's like, well, I have this idea. And then the people are like, I don't know what it looks like, but just make it happen. And so, like, it's so just exciting and refreshing, you know? And when this inevitably, you know, turns into a new normal, whatever it becomes after COVID, hopefully, like, I hope that's one of the things we hold on to, is like really appreciating creativity and doing things, and also not, if I kill one thing about the wedding business, doing things that mom and dad did, or that grandma and great grandma did. You know what? They didn't have Pinterest. They didn't have magazines. They had very little inspiration. You know, like, let's be inspired. Like I want somebody to get married on those stupid boats that are on the river, the little like booze pontoon things. You know, take somebody out, do a self-uniting marriage, call it a day. Down the river you go. Boom, you're hitched.
Oh yeah, I like it. And I will say too, as far as like, you know, I kind of want to ask about timeline and kind of what you fit in and what this looks like. But I love the idea from a photo perspective. It's like, it takes so much pressure off of like having to do everything else, like all the other things associated with the day, and making it all about your guests, where you kind of get to be a little selfish. You're like, hey, it's about us and our wedding. And I know some of the best photos I've ever taken have been from kind of low key things like this, where it's small. You don't have like the timeline's not super hurried. You know, it's not rushed. And so we have time just to kind of be creative. Like Jimmy was saying, we have time and space to do things that like on a normal wedding day, we may not have time for. So we get to go to that extra location where it's like, hey, let's try this. It may not work and that's okay. Or it may be awesome. So I really think there's a great opportunity here to do things that like are out of the box. You know, this is like, I think someone had posted a question earlier. It was like, what inventions or products or things will come out of like quarantine and, you know, COVID that we wouldn't have had before because people are forced to be creative. So just think about the wedding innovation, I guess. This is good, guys. I'm getting pumped up already.
I also feel that a couple, if they have been able to weather the storm of COVID and changing, and the word that we're all so sick of using, pivoting a million times over, you're going to get a couple that are like, yeah, let's do it. Hey, what else haven't we been through? Yeah, on our wedding day, oh, we're behind schedule. Okay, let me throw another one back. Like, I really think that's going to be our norm for right now, at least even moving into 2021. Even if we do resume some of these larger weddings, if we're allowed, we're going to see a lot more couples who kind of have a different perspective of life, and just a whole different perspective of their wedding day because they've been through so much.
Yeah, and going off of that, also like letting go of a lot of control that brides have towards the end, you know, wrapped up in all the stress, knowing that you're putting on a party for 300 plus of your closest family and friends. That puts a lot of pressure on people, and you know, sometimes they get tripped up with some small minute detail. They get really frustrated or upset. I feel like these brides that have been through the pandemic, they've, you know, the worst thing has already happened, so they're letting go of control of everything else. And we're finding brides, you know, in terms of their flowers, like colors, they're not just fixated on two specific colors. It's like, oh, we can really work with different palettes now and things like that, because they're just letting go and letting us do our thing, which is when the magic really happens, as we all know.
I want to throw out that like right now we're really experiencing freedom and joy for a lot of people. However, 2022 is coming on like a freight train. With anybody listening to this, here's this plan now. They are all lining up. They're knocking on the door.
Oh yeah.
Is there, so as far as like getting everything in, what is a quick timeline? Like, what does it look like, you know, for a micro wedding? Is it still all day? Is it less time? You know, what's that kind of look like maybe potentially?
For me, I see that it's less time. So you're looking at, in the old norm, you know, a 5-hour reception, sometimes a little bit longer. But that was also because you are dealing with the logistics of moving 200 people or more to another space and feeding 200 plus people. Obviously, just dealing with a smaller crowd shortens your timeline as a whole. Also, I mean, I think it's when you're thinking of more intimate parties that we all used to attend, that you don't want to hold people captive for 5 hours in the same space, unless you now can get really creative with different entertainment elements. But aside from that, I think you are looking at a little bit more of a condensed timeline. I'm not saying 2 hours, but maybe it is 2 hours. Maybe it's just a really beautiful dinner. It's really subject to the event itself and what the couple wants.
I think this is a great time too to think about your dinner and what you want it to be. A typical wedding is maybe 3 courses, you know, a salad, an entree, dessert. This may allow them to get creative and do maybe a European style dinner where there's dancing in between courses, or there are 7 courses as opposed to 3, and really make the experience about food now. A lot of my couples love great restaurants and great food. So this is the opportunity to now introduce it into your event and maybe make dinner itself a little bit longer.
That's good. Okay. All right. Oh yeah, this is a big one. Self-uniting. So this is something a lot of people don't know, is that you can self-unite in Pennsylvania. Does anyone have any, can speak to that?
So yes, it's a common misconception that if you want a family member or a friend to preside over your ceremony, that they need to be ordained. That's actually not true in Pennsylvania. You can have anyone sort of perform the wedding ceremony. You just need a very specific marriage license. And it's called a self-uniting license. And you can just request that when you would, go to the Office of Court Records to get your marriage license. And it's a very simple application, very similar to the traditional marriage license. And then if you have that, anyone can sort of perform the wedding ceremony. They don't need to be ordained. They don't need to be, a minister, or judge, or priest, or anything like that. And a lot of people, it's become a growing trend where, maybe your favorite uncle performs the ceremony, or your college friend who introduced you performs the ceremony. So it's a really nice way to sort of personalize that aspect of the wedding day.
Yeah, so self-uniting, it's I think an old Quaker tradition.
Yeah.
And so you don't need a minister to perform the ceremony, but like Victoria was saying, when you go to get your license, you have to get a self-uniting license. You can't get a traditional one. Because I had a couple who wanted to do it, but then they got the traditional license. And so you need to have a minister sign off on that. So a great option.
Need to file it. You still need to file it afterwards and, have all the paperwork submitted and everything like that. So it's still technically legal, but yeah.
I would tell anyone who wants to do it to be cautious too. If you're in a smaller county, not Allegheny, not Washington, not any of the larger counties, but if you're in a smaller county, you want to call ahead and make sure they carry the self-uniting licenses. Some of the smaller counties, especially if you're living on the eastern side, they don't always have them in stock. So you need to give them advance notice if you want to show up and actually apply for it.
That's good. Okay. I have a fun idea, but before I do that, does anyone have any other comments on micro weddings, thoughts, ideas?
I'll say it.
I have one.
Okay, I have a thought. So if we're hyping up micro weddings and we're talking about how they're so trendy right now. If you decide as a couple that a micro wedding isn't for you, that's okay too. If you would rather wait until 2021, 2022, that's perfectly fine. If you want the big reception with hundreds of people and all the bells and whistles, that's okay. No one's forcing you into this downsized celebration. But for those people who do decide, hey, we just want to be married, we want to celebrate this year. Our original date is really important to us for some reason. And you want to move forward with your plans, this micro wedding is a really great way for you to do that. But if you decide it's not for you, that's cool too.
I like it. Guys, this has been really good. This is really good. Okay, here's an idea. Let's go around real quick and everyone just throw out one idea of something that could be really fun as part of like a micro wedding / thing. Doesn't have to be the ultimate or like your dream, but just like, hey, this is an idea that you could do that would be really unique. I've always loved hot air balloons. So I think some sort of like hot air balloon ceremony would be really cool. So that's my idea. That's also my bucket list of like photo shoot things. So if you're interested, please hit me up. I want to do it.
I think it would be really interesting to invite more of your guests to give toasts at the reception. Usually during a very large wedding, toasts are kind of a dreaded portion of the evening because they can be long-winded or, full of inside jokes that maybe most guests don't understand or something like that. But I think when you have a smaller crowd, inviting more people to sort of speak to you as a couple is really heartfelt. And I think that would be something that's well received by those people who are invited to speak. Just giving them the floor for a couple minutes for them to say their well wishes, their congratulations, maybe talk about your relationship or how much you mean to them. I think it's a really nice way to sort of personalize it and make that celebration just that much more intimate.
I like that.
Okay, so for me, I love sweets. I love dessert, and not that I don't love a wedding cake, but I think when you have something that's really much more intimate, anything that's flambe. So I've been like baked Alaskan has been on my mind, and I'm like, you can't do that for 200 people. I mean, I guess you can, but that's like a whole nother hour that you tacked onto your reception. So I want servers to go around and put my dessert on fire and make that a whole experience. I just think that'd be really fun. It's a great talking point, and it's just an experience that you can't do for large groups.
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
I'll go. I want somebody to flip the schedule. I want to do cocktail hour at dusk, ceremony to follow, lovely dinner, and then the biggest bonfire you've ever seen.
I want to be invited to that wedding.
Yeah,
Right.
That sounds perfect.
I mean, you were invited to it. I did it. It was mine.
I
You
must
just
have left
weren't allowed
before the
to have a bonfire or bouncy houses. It's fine.
Awesome.
I'm all about the food, so I'm going to jump off Alexis's idea, but I want everyone to have their own charcuterie boards and wine flights. Or champagne flights. That would be something I would love to do.
Can I throw out a personal comment on that? The
Please.
drunkest I've ever been in my life was at a wedding in New York City where every table had its own personal bar.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
That sounds fantastic.
Fancy.
When your Cosmo set down, it was just magically replaced with another Cosmo. So
That sounds so
if anybody
dangerous.
wants to do that, invite me. I'll come. And
Oh gosh. Okay. So I've had time to think about it. I think what I would say would be, those really like infamous photos that everybody sees of like just a long table out in the middle of nowhere, but somehow they have electrical running and there's lights everywhere and there's catered food and everything. And you're like, how did this happen? But like in the middle of a flower field, obviously for me.
See, we have sister brain because I immediately envisioned like a lavender field, like a couple tables out, nobody around. So
I like
location. You have to think of some really cool spots. Rooftops, like how cool would that be? Yeah.
Yeah. We had a bride, she was talking about doing like a drive-in movie type situation or drive-by situation where people drive through. I don't know if they
like the ceremony's kind of the movie.
Yeah, the ceremony's the movie.
Oh, okay.
The meal gets brought out to them. They each get like a bouquet of flowers.
Yeah.
I think you explained that so much better.
Yeah, I was like, help me out here. I'm like not doing a great job explaining this.
I thought we were going straight up Vegas, like drive-in chapel, like get out.
Oh, this is awesome. Well, okay. I think we covered a lot. I'm not going to make this longer than it has to be. This was all really, really good. I'm excited about it. I love, Victoria, what you said about how it's not for everybody. It's just another option now in your wheelhouse. So feel free to still do big weddings. Just do what you want, make it's your wedding. And thank you guys all so much for tuning in and for sharing your thoughts, and have a wonderful day.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks,
Michael.
everybody. Good to see you
Bye.
guys.